Chile's Easter Islands are famous for monolithic human figures called moai statues. These statues were specifically carved to honor chieftain or other important people who had passed away.
In one of the most remote corners of the Pacific Ocean, a tiny volcanic island stands alone. It is a place that feels unstuck from time, a lonely land of windswept grass and volcanic shores, guarded by an army of stone giants. They are the moai of Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. For centuries, these monolithic faces have gazed silently toward the horizon, their expressions unreadable, their purpose a profound enigma. Textbooks and travel guides have shown us the same iconic image, massive stone heads protruding from grassy slopes, symbols of a lost civilization that mysteriously vanished. This is the story we were all told, a story of isolation, obsession, and eventual collapse. But what if that picture was incomplete? What if the most famous statues in the world were hiding a secret in plain sight, buried just beneath our feet? Archaeologists have long been haunted by questions the silent stones refuse to answer. But in the 21st century, they stopped looking only at the statues and started digging. What they unearthed has not just added to the history of Rapa Nui, it has completely rewritten it. The truth is more complex, more ingenious, and far more awe-inspiring than the world was ever led to believe. For generations, the prevailing image of the moai was just that, heads. But a group of researchers had a persistent suspicion there was more to the story. In 2010, a team known as the Easter Island Statue Project, led by archaeologist Dr. Joanne Vantelberg, began a series of meticulous excavations around several of the island's most famous figures. They carefully peeled back the earth, layer by layer, expecting to find little more than rough-hewn bases. Instead, the ground began to reveal something that would fundamentally alter our understanding of these monuments. These weren't just heads. They were complete, full-bodied figures. First, the soil gave way to reveal massive shoulders, then powerful chests, and finally, long, slender arms with hands folded delicately across the abdomen in a posture of silent reverence. Some of these colossal figures extended more than 30 feet into the earth, their bodies shielded from the elements for centuries. The layers of sediment had acted as a perfect time capsule, preserving details that hadn't seen sunlight since the day they were buried. And on their backs, a new mystery emerged. Intricate carvings, petroglyphs of crescents, spirals, and other symbolic patterns, etched with a precision that hinted at a rich visual language. These weren't just random decorations, they were stories of lineage, status, and the spiritual connection between the people and their land. Perhaps most revealing was their orientation. Every moai was found to face inward, away from the sea, their gaze fixed upon the ancient village sites. They were not lonely sentinels scanning the ocean for threats, they were protectors, watching over their descendants. The entire island, archaeologists realized, was a deliberately designed memorial landscape, the work of an organized, sophisticated society with a profound sense of spiritual order.
This society's engineering prowess became undeniable. Many statues once wore massive red stone cylinders on their heads, called pukao. These weren't simple hats. Carved from a special red scoria quarry miles away, each pukao could weigh over 12 tons. The sheer logistical and engineering challenge of quarrying, transporting, and then lifting these heavy stones atop 30-foot statues demonstrated a level of planning far beyond what early explorers had credited the islanders with. Near the statues' bases, tools were found. Basalt picks and chisels left exactly where workers had dropped them centuries ago. It was an eerie scene, as if the builders had simply vanished mid-task, leaving their work frozen in time. A year later, in 2011, the team's work near the Rano Raraku quarry led to a find that shed light not on stone, but on color. While clearing soil, they uncovered dozens of small, stone-lined pits filled with a vibrant red powder. chemical analysis revealed it was no ordinary dust. It was a carefully prepared pigment made from ground iron oxides, hematite and magamite. What baffled scientists was the timing. The pits dated to between 1200 and 1650 CE, a period long after the island's forests had supposedly vanished, a time when many scholars believed Rapa Nui society had collapsed into chaos. The presence of so much carefully stored pigment told a different story. It proved that even in the face of ecological hardship, the people of Rapa Nui continued their traditions. This was not a culture in terminal decline, but one that adapted and endured. In Polynesian culture, red is the color of mana, spiritual power, authority, and life force. Dr. Welmode Out of Denmark's Mosgaard Museum studied the sites and concluded that the sheer scale of the pigment production, requiring mining, processing, and distribution, was a sign of a highly structured society. The moai we see today, weathered and gray, were likely never meant to be so. They were vibrant figures, possibly painted with crimson, glowing under the Pacific sun like living embodiments of ancestral power. As the excavations went deeper, so did the mysteries. The great stone platforms upon which the moai stand, known as ahu, held their own secrets. Beneath several of these platforms, archaeologists uncovered hidden burial chambers. These were not simple graves. They were elaborate stone vaults, constructed with astonishing precision, using interlocking blocks that fit so tightly no mortar was needed. This master-level stonework, resistant to earthquakes and erosion, mirrored the techniques used in other great ancient civilizations. Inside, they found the remains of high-status individuals, chiefs, priests, and master craftspeople, buried with ceremonial offerings. But it was the artifacts buried with them that shattered another long-held myth, the idea of total isolation. They found obsidian tools, intricate shell jewelry from distant islands, and other materials that could only have arrived through trade or long-range navigation. Rapa Nui was not a lonely outpost. It was part of a dynamic, interconnected Polynesian world. The burial chambers also explained the small niches carved into the sides of the ahu. They were spaces for offerings, food, water, and precious items left for the spirits of the ancestors resting below.
But of all the discoveries, one, made decades earlier, would most profoundly change the way we see the moai. In 1978, a Rapa Nui archaeologist named Sergio Rapu was studying fragments of white coral and dark volcanic rock found near the ahu. For years, they had been dismissed as random debris. Rapu realized they were something else entirely. They were the shattered pieces of eyes. For centuries, the world had seen the moai as blind, blank-faced guardians, but Rapu's discovery proved they once had bright, shining eyes made of white coral for the sclera with pupils of black obsidian or red scoria. When reconstructed and placed in the statues, the effect is breathtaking. The moai appear alive. Their gaze becomes direct, intelligent, almost commanding. Archaeologists now believe that installing the eyes was the final, sacred act in the statue's creation. Once the eyes were in place, the moai was no longer a stone carving. It was considered to have mana, a living vessel for the spirit of the ancestor it represented. This discovery gave new life to the island's oral traditions, which had long spoken of statues that could see and protect their people. The legends that scholars had dismissed as myth were, in fact, history. The moai were never meant to be silent. They were meant to see. The physical world of Rapa Nui had been revealed as far more complex than imagined. But another discovery hinted at an intellectual world that was utterly unique. In 1864, a French missionary named Eugène Araud stumbled upon wooden tablets covered in strange, elegant symbols. The islanders called them rongo-rongo. The script was unlike anything he had ever seen. The symbols, stylized birds, fish, and human figures, were arranged in alternating lines,
a sophisticated writing pattern known as reverse Bauster-Fogden, where each line is read in the opposite direction from the one before. The discovery was revolutionary. Polynesia was a world of rich oral traditions, but no other island had ever developed its own written language. Rapa Nui stood alone. But by the time Arod found the tablets, the knowledge to read them was almost gone, a victim of the disease and social upheaval that followed European contact. For over 150 years, linguists and cryptographers have tried to crack the code, but the meaning of Rongorongo remains one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries. Do the tablets hold genealogies, sacred chants, or perhaps astronomical data, the lost science of Polynesian navigators? Whatever their purpose, their existence is the final proof of a society of extraordinary intellectual depth.
The buried bodies, the sacred red pigment, the hidden tombs, the seeing eyes, and the lost language. Together, these discoveries dismantle the old, tragic narrative of Easter Island. They paint a new picture, one of a civilization that was not primitive or doomed, but intelligent, organized, and deeply spiritual. The people of Rapa Nui were master engineers, artists, and astronomers who thrived for 1,000 years in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. Their true story is not one of collapse, but of ingenuity and resilience. The Moai are no longer just silent statues on a forgotten island. They are storytellers in stone, guardians of a past that refuses to stay buried. And as archaeologists continue to listen, they know that more secrets still lie waiting beneath the volcanic soil, a hidden legacy that reminds us how much of our own human history is still waiting to be unearthed. What lies beneath Easter Island is not just the key to its past, it's a testament to the enduring brilliance of humankind itself.